Good morning, everyone. I'm Mayor Chris Jensen. We're here for another edition of Mental Health Monday. I'm not sure where you are across the world, but I can tell you in Noblesville, it is a sunshine, almost 70-degree day here in November, which is awesome and good for my mental health personally. I've talked openly about that. So it's nice to have some wonderful sunshine on this day. So great to have so many of you joining us. Hopefully there's some first-time viewers today. We have a very special guest and a really awesome topic to talk about today. I'm joined quickly by my good friend and the owner of Pathways to Healing Counseling here in Noblesville, Kristen Boyce. Good morning, Kristen.
Good morning, Mayor Jensen. I'm really looking forward to this conversation today.
I am too. We have a special guest here on the screen with us, someone who I know very well, I respect a ton, also works for the city of Noblesville, our Assistant Director of Economic Development, Mr. Chuck Haberman. Good morning, Chuck.
Good morning, Mayor. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. So good. Chuck and I have little kids that go to the same daycare, so our lives interact on so many levels. But importantly for today's conversation, Chuck is a Marine. And we are here this week to talk a little bit with Veterans Day being this week. 2 weeks ago, you may recall, Aaron McDonald, who I hope is tuning in today, recommended and suggested that we talk about veterans issues around mental health, which is hugely important. And I really appreciate, Aaron, shout out to you for bringing this to light. And so I immediately went to Chuck and coerced him to join us today to talk a little bit about that. And he'll do a great job talking a little bit about his service. I know we have some questions about that, but really want to dive directly into veterans and mental health. And Kristen is well equipped to help lead that conversation as well. So hopefully this is the start of several maybe specific topics we get to, Kristen, going into 2022 with different groups. And maybe so long as this doesn't crash and burn on us today, we may have some other guests that join us at later times as well. So as always, if you have any questions today, type them in the chat. If you want to just say hi or talk about how great Chuck's bald head looks here on the screen, give him a shout out. You're welcome to do that too at any point in time. But as we get into this, let's do it the way we always start, with some square breathing, and I'll let Kristen take it from there.
Okay, first thing we're going to do to get this centered, so we all feel centered and present in this with Chuck and Mayor Jensen and all of you. We are so grateful for you. So the first thing I teach clients is feet on the floor. We're going to take it's called square breathing. We're going to take an inhale through our nose for 4. We're going to hold for 4 and slowly exhale out our mouths for 8. So let's do that together. We're going to do 2 breaths just to kind of calm the nervous system and bring us back to the present. So pressing into your feet, inhale, hold, and exhale. Do one more. Inhale and exhale. What I love about square breathing is actually the military, I don't know, Chuck, if you did this or not, is very big into the square breathing. This is before you're going into a special, I know special forces use this to bring back to center and be present before they go on a mission. Did you use this in any of your time?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things that you do where you're asked to control your breathing, and there's a number of different techniques. So yeah, square breathing is one of those things where, take a beat, get your heart rate down, get your brain focused, clear the fog, and make a decision or take whatever action you need to take. So yeah.
Awesome.
We're coming full circle.
We're coming full circle here today. I think there's going to be a lot of these moments here as we go forward. So yes, Kristen, I was telling somebody this morning, my 4-year-old Hank, if you ever meet him, he's kind of a little bit of aloof at times. He's adorable, but he was actually breathing with me this weekend because he gets a little bit spiked up a little bit on his emotions at time, usually involving the iPad, whole nother discussion, or the Switch, another discussion as well. But we were doing some square breathing this weekend. So you'd be proud of that moment. So to kick this off and get this started, I think I would love, Chuck, if you would spend a minute or so just telling us a little bit about your service, what branch you were. I know I mentioned you were the Marines, but if you could kind of tell us a quick synopsis of your story, I think that would help us all get some context around your experience.
Sure. So I was not traditional in joining right out of high school. I had gone to college, and actually another experience in breathing. I studied vocal performance at the University of Indianapolis for a couple of years. So we learned about a lot of breathing techniques there. So I was about 23 when I joined the Marine Corps in 2007. and I was combat engineer was my job field. And so I spent my first 2 years in Okinawa, Japan. I deployed twice out of there on a MEU, which stands for a Marine Expeditionary Unit. And so we traveled on a ship, a Navy ship, all over Southeast Asia to many different countries, doing a number of different things, humanitarian aid, cross training with different country militaries. And then I spent my last 6 years stationed in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and I did a third deployment to Afghanistan out of Camp Lejeune. And so during that time, lots of ups and downs, lots of life experiences in those 8 years, as you could imagine. And there's a number of different things many service members experience in their time, from, kind of not having a lot of control over your personal life and your professional life. You get orders, you go. There's not a lot of questioning them. There's not a lot of leeway. You're just kind of prepared to go and do those things. And that can play a number of influential, it can make a big impact on your life, be it your marriage, your family life, your extended family, a number of things like that. And so, many veterans deal with a lot of things, whether they're still on duty and serving the country or they've transitioned. And so those are some of the things that I did in my service, but I'm happy to answer any other questions you might have about it.
Go ahead, Mayor.
No, I was going to tee it off to you, Chris. I was just going to quickly note that not only is he a first-class individual, he's an awesome Marine, but also a husband and father of 2 little kids. So add that all compounded on there, and I'll let Kristen go with some conversation around that.
So I was curious, when you do make transitions, and I know this, you had said that you have to go, right? You don't really get a choice in that. How do you process? I don't think there's a lot of conversation about processing that transition in a family system or a couple relationship. And there's a lot of feelings that come up: grief, loss, fear. How did you navigate that? Did they talk to you about that?
Yeah, so I'll give just a personal experience. So, these decisions come down at a snap, right? And you just kind of react to them, and you plan your family kind of apart from your work life, right? And you kind of, in some cases, just hope that it'll work out, right? And in the civilian world, you plan for a vacation, you put in your request, it gets approved, and you kind of go. In the military, it's very different. Hey, you're going to be deployed. You need to be prepared to be gone on this date. You're going to be gone for 7 months, 9 months, 12 months. Make things work. So a personal experience of mine, it was after my third deployment, and I had some time left on my contract, and I was going to be sent back to Afghanistan. And I had just recently gotten married to my wife. We had plans to, for her to move down to North Carolina, where I was stationed. And we got news that I was going to be deployed again. And so we had to make the quick decision to, okay, it probably makes sense for you not to transfer your license. My wife's a physical therapist. Don't transfer your license. Let's not move down here. You're settled in there. Let's make that work. So we moved forward with that course of action. And 2 weeks later, I was sent to California for some pre-deployment training, which we'd gone through again. We were used to that cycle. And so we were there for about a month, and plans changed. The Marine Corps said, yep, you're actually not going to go on this deployment. Retract everything. So we had to, things change at the split second. And so you just kind of there is no time to process. It's let's make a decision. It's going to be the best decision we can. And, hopefully a lot of people are in a position where they can say, look, we're in this together. We're going to figure this out together, and we're going to move forward. But there are situations where, you don't have that support system. Maybe you're single. Maybe you don't have the best marriage if you are married. And so those have tremendous impact on your mental health as well.
Yeah, there's 2 things that I think is a theme for some veterans is what goes on the battlefield stays on the battlefield.
That couldn't be further from the truth.
Right. Tell me what comes up for you when I said that. Like what?
Yeah. So and I'll say this. So, people who have seen combat get asked hundreds of questions, and they're mostly all uncomfortable. And so whether you saw combat action or you didn't, or you probably experienced something or saw something that was troubling in some way, be it, something transpired within your family that you weren't there for to experience. That's traumatizing. You may have seen something that you weren't directly involved in that was very challenging. Those things don't go away. You carry all of those things, the treatment of people that you see over there, the treatment of your peers with some of the people that you interact with over there. Those things do not go away. Those are ingrained in your memory for the rest of your life. And ultimately, the way that you choose to deal with them greatly impacts how you're going to be able to live and move forward and continue on with your life during the rest of your service or after your service.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because there's some fear and shame of bringing that to the light and reliving it. And yet you are every day. It's a part of your story. It's a part of, like you said, it doesn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing I think I see is kind of this identity crisis, like this belonging, like you belong in this system. You belong, you get it. You have a shared understanding of what it's like. And then to come back from that, that's also traumatic. Can you speak into that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's an important thing, especially for people who are transitioning out of service. So you're in active duty, doesn't matter, or inactive duty, reserves, doesn't matter. When you're serving your country, you literally wear everything on your chest, right? You wear your rank, people have to act accordingly. You wear your ribbon stack, people know where you've been, what you've done. Now, that's not everything, right? That's not important, but it's kind of all out there. You wear it all on your sleeve. Customs and courtesies and the way people are supposed to act and instant obedience to orders, right? If you come from being a senior enlisted or an officer, you're expecting people to do what you say without even questioning it, right? And then you transition out into the civilian world, and they don't care if you were a commander or a senior enlisted, master sergeant or a gunny. You're just Joe on the block, and you're here to do your job. And if I don't agree with you, I'm going to question you. Or if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. That is a huge, huge thing to adapt to. And so, yeah, you see that oftentimes. And, in my line of work coming out was workforce development and human resources. And you see guys, and even me to some extent, you come out, you're like, look, I was this rank. I have these leadership abilities. I should be doing this type of role, and I should be making this kind of money. Well, yes, you're great, and you do have those competencies, but it's not a direct correlation. So it's working with those veterans to communicate the skills that you have and how they translate into the civilian world. And that can be challenging as well, right?
Yeah, and the loneliness, I think, sometimes coming back and that transition, and even saying, well, I kind of knew what to expect here. I had an understanding. We got each other. We had this shared experience together. And then to come back and kind of had the battlefield in your mind. I also think in that loneliness and sense of isolation.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I think my experience was it probably took me about a year to really figure out the circles that I wanted to be involved with and where I fit in. And finding that group of people that I could open up to and connect with. Going through the VA system and getting into that system can be challenging because there's a trust issue. The first therapist that I was connected with, we did not hit it off. It was not the right fit. And, that's a whole story in itself. Through communication, I said, this isn't going to work. This is not how I'm going to be able to connect and open up. I was reconnected with somebody that was more in line with the kind of person that I could connect with, and it was great. And so it takes a while, right? There's not a perfect fit for everybody. You got to find what works for you and kind of go from there.
Well, that actually transitions directly into a question that Sarah Reed chimed in on. We both know Sarah well, and she's married to a veteran. And so this is where this kind of ticks off of. But it says, how important is it to maintain the veteran network connection after your service is complete? Kristen, do you have anything to follow up on that? And then obviously, Chuck, a good question for you too.
Yeah, I'm going to let Chuck take that one because I think I want to hear what he has to say from experience, and then I can chime in.
Yeah, that's important. And it kind of does go very well into what I was saying. Like, everyone has a different level of comfort in connecting, right? So you just transitioned out of your service. Some people just want to be left alone, right? Some people just need that time to decompress, figure out their life as a civilian. Other people, they're gung ho, right? They want to be in it. They want to be in parades. They want to go to the VFW every week, and that's great. There's a lot of people that are in the middle. And so staying connected with your network is huge. One of the things that I'm doing with the county is we've got a veterans committee group that we've put together just to kind of do that, is build awareness of the veterans in Hamilton County that are in the community. Whether you want to, get an email every month, or you want to be actively involved in a committee and support some of the different task force that we're putting together, there's all different kinds of ways to connect. Maybe it's once a year for Veterans Day. Maybe it's for the Marine Corps birthday, or whatever it may be. There's lots of different ways to connect, but I think having somebody that can relate to you on your level, right, whatever level that might be, is important. And so having that veteran connection's huge.
Yeah. And what we see oftentimes is a relationship is crumbling. There's alcohol involved. There's some numbing. Things have kind of escalated, and now they're in a situation where they need support. So I always recommend support when someone's ready and willing to engage in that is going to be helpful in that journey, especially when there has been lots of transitions, lots of grief. Everybody has it's a continuum, Chuck. I like kind of how you put that. Everybody's on a different continuum. We don't want to wait till it's you're at a crisis point. Mm-hmm. And COVID has brought a lot what was underneath the surface that we thought, I'm fine. Feelings inside not expressed. I'm fine. And we go, okay, I'm not fine. Right. I'm really not fine, and I really need support. And so I think there's a lot here. I want to go back to what's on the battlefield stays on the battlefield mentality. That is what keeps people escalating into that crisis mode. And so you sharing your story, I just want to say thank you so much, because this is so helpful to so many other veterans that are feeling or experience very similar things. It gives us permission and normalizes therapy. Like you got in the first therapist wasn't a connection. That is critical. I love how you said that, because if it's not a connection and you don't trust them, it's not going to work.
Right. Yep.
So I think
I was reclusive. I didn't open up about anything. I didn't, how could this person possibly relate to anything I've experienced or shared? There's no way I'm going to open up to them. And so, they found somebody that could, and they were a Navy SEAL. They'd done it all. And, you need to watch yourself, pup, because I've seen it all. And I could relate to that. I haven't seen anything that you've seen, but I've seen something, and it's, you can relate. So it's important.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that, because a lot of people say, well, they go into a therapist and like, this is just a way. I'm checking a box because my spouse wants me to go, but I'm not getting anything out of it because I don't trust this person. They don't get it. So finding the right fit is essential to getting you where you need to go or want to go. So what other things have you done that's been helpful for you? You've done therapy, you've stayed in a kind of a support system. What other things have been helpful to you and your emotional wellness?
Yeah, finding a hobby, finding something to do that's yours to get away. I like to run and exercise, keep that kind of routine from the military. It's a way to connect, and there's a group, Central Indiana has a chapter called Team Red, White, and Blue. And so it's a group of veterans who come together around a physical activity, be it a 5K or a walk or bird watching. It could be anything. There's a number of different activities. And so that's a way that everybody can kind of come together and do what they want to do, break a sweat, have a good time, and connect with other veterans. And so that's one thing that I enjoy to do. But just staying somewhat connected, right? You don't want to lose that. It's an important piece of your life. And so I like to stay connected in how I can, or however I can.
Kristen, could you touch on a little bit? Even Chuck's experience is incredible, and I appreciate you, Chuck, sharing all that. That was more than I even thought I'd ask you to do. So thank you. But Kristen, you see other veterans too. I know you work in this realm. What things that Chuck's not hitting on that you're seeing veterans confront? I can't even imagine being in their shoes, but I know you get a front row seat a lot to those that are dealing with additional issues.
Addiction is a big piece of what we see. Because the compartmentalization and the training that you all endure, it's a lot of, mindset work where you're have a mission. And so there's a lot of compartmentalization that takes place. So really tending to that piece and leaning into that vulnerability, which is not the mentality, because you have to complete the mission. The mission is of highest priority, which makes sense. So a lot of that is leaning into that discomfort of processing those emotions, which are really not appropriate on the battlefield. Like, that's not what we want on the battlefield typically. So that's why we're working on what we call EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing, and it's to take any kind of flashbacks or memories that someone has. This was developed almost 40 years ago by Dr. Francine Shapiro, who was working with veterans, and the veterans had been doing talk therapy for 25 years and they weren't getting relief. It was like, I'm still having nightmares. I'm still having flashbacks. I'm drinking heavily. My relationships are falling apart. And she noticed that when she was in New York City, and she was noticing she was reprocessing a traumatic memory, and her eyes were moving right, left, which is right hemisphere, left hemisphere. And she started to reprocess the body sensations, because a lot of what veterans have is body memory. Anyone with trauma, but veterans in particular, sights and sounds are very triggering. That's why fireworks are very triggering, can be very triggering depending on the veteran and what they've experienced, which we don't talk a lot about. Loud sounds can be very triggering. Smells can be triggering. So we are working with the sensory system to reprocess what they didn't get to process in real time and put that in the past, so it's not so activating in the present. And it's called bilateral stimulation. So EMDR is a very effective form of treatment for veterans, very empirically research-based. And now the U.S. government endorses that as a modality to treat PTSD, among other things, anxiety, depression. We also use brain spotting, which is an offshoot of EMDR, but we're using a fixed eye position rather than moving the eyes back and forth. That is also another important component to working through PTSD. These aren't requirements. These aren't necessary. We're just talking about empirically research-based modalities that can be helpful for treatment of PTSD. And so what we find is working with veterans and doing EMDR, brain spotting, some what we call somatic experiencing, some body work, helps clear those sensations out, so the veteran or anybody with trauma can now live more fully in the present. And we also see a lot of relational issues with children, parenting issues, along with connecting issues in their partnerships. So we work a lot on how to connect emotionally, because they were conditioned out of that in a sense. So we work with a lot of how to connect emotionally safely and vulnerably, and how to have a new identity as well, because the identity is so ingrained in the culture, which we want to honor that. We want to hold space for that. And I love the and in both. We want to also have room to discover who you really are and have identity outside of being a veteran too. We want to honor that. That is a very important part of the process, and create this other component too, so we can have both. It's an and in both, and that's a really important part of the work, and finding belonging outside of that. And those transitions are really critical too. Reprocessing a lot of those transitions where you didn't have a say so because you signed up and you're like, okay, I get it, and you also have feelings about that, and so do the family members. There's a lot of So those are the main things we see.
So, Kristen, if I'm a veteran and I hear you saying, okay, therapy is obviously one great step, but maybe I don't want to do that. Like maybe I'm just uncomfortable doing that. Maybe we haven't broken through and broken down that stigma just yet for you. But say you're there, what else would be a good avenue for folks that may be struggling in the veterans community if they're not going to seek individual therapy?
Yeah, I think some of what Chuck offered was very important. The hobbies and finding another support system, a group, and the veterans have several. And I like that you mentioned those because those are also a nice, safe place to start, is finding those hobbies through that system and connecting that way. So like you said, if you're a bird watcher, you've got someone else that kind of understands you, gets you, and you start building rapport there. You start having a common connection. That can be a very safe place. Sometimes 12-step programs, I know people are like, I think 12-step programs can be a nice first step. They're free. They are anonymous. And so if you're really struggling, you don't have to say a lot of identifying information. You can come and listen if you want and just take in. Support systems are important. And we see a lot of isolation in the veteran community. And have the more support you can have, even if you don't want to start sharing, the better. And then I'm going to say it and encourage people. The sharing is an important part of working through it. It really is, because I think Chuck said it so well. I mean, you will stay stuck in it. And I know it's scary and I know it's overwhelming and you don't want to relive things. Well, you're already there. It's already there. It's already impacting you. And we want to honor that. Like you went through a lot and we want to honor that process. And in order to do that, if we bury it, we're not really honoring it. And so that's a really important part of the work. And it's not easy. And I want to make sure I'm being clear on that. I'm not saying this is easy peasy stuff. No, takes a lot of courage to step forward and say, hey, I really need to take a look at this.
First of all, before we wrap up, Chuck, thank you. This was awesome. Thank you to all you veterans out there for your service. This has been an incredible conversation. All veterans, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for all you do. Kristen, before we leave, if individuals are looking for help, and Chuck, you might even have some resources too. If they're in crisis right now, I'll start with Kristen or Chuck. If you want to chime in, because I think you had a special line. Where do veterans turn if they're in crisis?
You can always turn to the Veterans Crisis Hotline. The number's 1-800-273-8255. And then if anybody locally or not locally, I guess, I don't know your viewership, but if anybody wants to reach out to me directly, they can connect, and I'm happy to talk to anybody about it. I have a little bit of training. And so, that'd be great.
That's awesome. And then Kristen, you want to take it from there?
Thank you, Chuck. You just really touched my heart. So I just wanted to say thank you for your service. And I honor you and your just courage to show up today. And I'm feeling all the gratitude for you. And you offering to help other people. That's what it's about. You doing that right here. That's what we need more of. That's what we need. Like you sharing vulnerably, you opening up, you offering to be, if someone wants to just give you a phone call. So thank you. I was going to give the same number, 1-800-273-TALK. That's the suicide hotline. And they are trained in this. They work with veterans. They work with anybody that's gone through trauma that needs support. Please call them. Do not walk through this alone. You matter. You're important. And what you went through matters. You matter, even if no one else has said that to you. If no one else has said thank you for what you've done, thank you for your signing on the dotted line to be of service to this country. I'm saying it. We're saying it. Thank you. I mean this in wholeheartedly. You need to know that you matter and your service mattered and what you've been through matters. So please take this in. I know sometimes the shame blocks us from hearing this. You can also text if you don't want to talk to anyone. That's okay. 741-741 text. Whatever it takes to know that if you get support, your life will get better. And I know it will get bumpy before it gets better. And I just want to tell you, I've walked so many people on our team is versed. I mean, we really like working with veterans, and it's not easy. And I know that. So thank you for your service. If you're here locally, Prevail. If you have any emotional abuse, domestic abuse, we know we love Prevail. 371-7 or call 317-776-3472. And then the VA, of course, is here to help. And if you're suicidal, immediately, all the local hospitals, you can call 911, or you can go to Community North or St. Vincent Stress Center.
So tons of resources out there. I'll just echo my thanks to all the veterans for all that you've done. This has been an incredible conversation. Join us back here in 2 weeks. Kristen Boyce, thank you. Chuck Haberman, thank you. Stay safe, everyone, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.